It's a pleasure to meet Mr. Neil McCabe, contributor at redstate.com, a national political reporter here on the Capital Show. My viewers are waiting eagerly to listen to your thoughtful opinions. My first question, Neil, will be about the year is ending now, the year that is, and we are about to start a new year, 2024. What do you see the importance of the political development that happened in 2023?
2023 was really the year of Donald Trump, and I'm sorry to Taylor Swift and Time Magazine, but they completely missed it. Trump was in a very difficult situation because he needed to create a reason to be president again that involved the future.
Yeah.
Voters will not thank you for the past. Voters will lie to pollsters, they'll lie to candidates. But when a voter actually votes, you or me, we are voting for the future of ourselves and their families. And Trump had a good case that he had been a good president, but he had a good case that the 2020 election was not a normal election. There were a lot of rule changes and a lot of things that went down. But nobody cared about 2020 when they're voting in 2024. He needed to make that case for the future. It was very similar to the situation that President Reagan was in 1978. And Reagan, there was no reason to make Reagan president. He had become popular in the 60s, but the 60s were over. But Reagan was able to oppose the Panama Canal Treaty in 1978, and he started to embrace the tax cuts that were supported by Jack Kemp, and all of a sudden, he was talking about new things. When Trump went to East Palestine, Ohio, that was his pivot. And after at East Palestine, Ohio, it just got better for him. And he reconnected not only with the people of Ohio, but with the American people. And they remembered that this guy cares about us. And then, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what the action on the election would be after the Supreme Court in Colorado banned President Trump from having his name appearing on the ballot. And also Secretary of State in Maine did the same thing. Does it agree with the United States Constitution?
Well, the United States Constitution allows the states to sort of run their own elections, but the Constitution also has the requirements for who the president of the United States is. And basically, you have to have lived in the United States, you have to have been born in the United States, and you have to be 35 years old. This was the magical thing about why Barack Obama's birth certificate was so important. Because, and remember, it was the Hillary Clinton campaign that was in 2008 that pushed this idea that Barack Obama was not qualified to be president. What you're seeing in Maine and Colorado, these are tactical efforts that show that the Democrats do not want to face Trump in the election. They're afraid of him. They think he might win. And so they're doing everything possible. But the bigger thing is that when you have states deciding different rules and different values and different cultures, and it becomes separated by law, it's okay to have differences, like Florida is different from Massachusetts, right? Michigan is different from Kansas. But when you have different laws and you have a political system that's separated, that's when you really become two countries. And so the real problem.
But how to solve this issue? And what is the counter argument for this decision?
Well, I think the basic thing is that Trump is qualified to run for president. He was not convinced. He's being accused of insurrection, but nobody has defined insurrection. You don't know what insurrection actually means, because there was a Supreme Court decision that said you cannot charge someone with insurrection until Congress makes a law. Congress never made a law defining insurrection. So literally insurrection could mean a bouquet of flowers. It doesn't matter. There is no definition.
But
I could charge Obama. I could charge Biden with insurrection with what
yeah.
he's doing at the border, and you're going to see that in the conservative states. They're just whatever they do to Trump, they can do to a Democrat.
Now, what about impeaching President Biden, excuse me, and how will this affect the elections, also the legal investigation with his son, Hunter Biden?
And that will go nowhere. The House Republicans have spent the last year, beating the drums, banging the pots and pans, and doing nothing. Nothing will happen with impeachment. Nothing will happen with Hunter Biden. The president controls the Justice Department. The president of the United States is not going to allow his prosecutor to go after Hunter Biden for anything other than sort of the taxes and the gun charges will be dealt with very easily, right? The real problems for Hunter Biden are money laundering, human trafficking, transferring top secret technology to the Chinese, specifically dealing with the F-35. There's some very serious things that Hunter Biden could be charged with. He will be charged with nothing serious.
For now. What about the Act of Chips and Science? It allocates $280 billion to secure America's dominance in electronic chips or integrated circuits. So is that bother China? Will America can defeat China in this type of economic inquiry?
Yeah, this is largely just money that Biden can give to his friends and contributors. It will have no impact on the markets. The stock market raises trillions of dollars for industry. The idea that the federal government can pick winners and losers, the idea that some bureaucrat in Washington, D.C., or the idea that Joe Biden is going to decide who the top chip maker can be is really impossible. It's a lot of money. People will make a lot of money off the taxpayers, but it'll go nowhere.
To elaborate further on global economic issues, President Putin visited Saudi Arabia and UAE recently. There are speculations that this could lead to a change or increasing or decreasing of oil price. What do you think?
The most important factor in oil prices is consumption in China and consumption in the United States, and that those economies are in trouble in the Middle East. Oil producers know it. And so they can pretty much decide what the price of oil will be. Right now, gas prices, oil prices are relatively low or moderately low. I think that Biden needs to have low gas prices for his reelection campaign, but those low gas prices, it's completely arbitrary, except when it comes to the fact that he has cut back significantly on American drilling and exploration. He's signaled to the American oil companies that he doesn't want them to really build up their production. I think what's also very troubling is what's going on with the Houthis, with Yemen, and their ability to stop traffic in the Red Sea, which is at the other end. Yemen is at the other end of the Suez Canal. So we remember 2 or 3 years ago when that large freighter blocked the Suez Canal for I think for about a month, right? The whole world trade stopped. People couldn't get sneakers in their stores. It's like nothing was available because of this freighter blocking the Suez Canal. Yemen is doing the same thing at the other end of the Red Sea, and I think that's going to be extremely troubling for people.
And this must be related to the Gaza events. The Biden administration wants Israel to conduct surgical strikes and avoid the collateral damage. But in the other hand, Israel wants a long and strategic and comprehensive military campaign. What do you think about the situation? Can we face here a serious dispute between Israel and the U.S.?
The Biden administration is being run by the people who are deputies and assistants under President Barack Obama. And the Obama administration wanted to reboot our relationships in the Middle East so that the United States was the ally of Iran and to some extent Turkey, and to basically putting aside decades of the United States working with Saudi Arabia and Israel. There's a hostility to Israel inside the Biden administration, just as there was in the Obama administration. Biden is doing what he has to do. He's saying what he has to say to placate the pro-Israel feelings in the United States. The United States is exceedingly pro-Israel, and Biden needs to negotiate that and navigate that, really. But in reality, Biden is looking to suppress and contain Israel, and he is looking for ways to bring the Iranians back to the seat at the table so that they can function as a regular country again without the sanctions. We've seen billions of dollars that were liberated and sent to the Iranians maybe a month before the attacks with Hamas. Hamas is funded by the Iranians. Hezbollah is funded by the Iranians. There's no dispute about this. And yet it is Biden who is telling Israel to back off on Hamas, and he literally blocked an attack on Hezbollah by the Israelis.
Anyway, Iran's lately, they described the attacks, 7 October terror attacks, as a revenge of the killing of Qasem Soleimani, but Hamas didn't label that. They said this is a Palestinian issue, and we know that Hamas is funded by Israel, as you said. So how do you interpret this clash of words?
Well, I think that's quite the retribution. I mean, I don't know if the balance, if the killing of one man justified the killing of so many thousands. That man, the Iranian general who was killed, he was responsible for hundreds of Americans killed in Iraq, and he had been on the list of killing Americans for a long time. So in many ways, killing him was revenge from the United States for everything he had done to American soldiers in Iraq. And so it goes on, and then you have the October 7th attacks, and now there's the revenge on those October 7th attacks, and now there's revenge against the revenge. When you get into a cycle of revenge, it really spirals the wrong way. I think that the Biden administration is making things difficult because their public voice is supporting Israel, but their private actions and their private sympathies are with Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Iranians.
And the Houthis.
And the Houthis, yes.
Yeah, in this situation, how we can assess the efforts of countries such as Saudi Arabia and UAE, at least in humanitarian efforts toward Israel, toward Gaza. And Egypt also is helping to relieve the suffering of the Palestinian in Gaza. How the U.S. can think and can ameliorate its ties with these countries, such Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Egypt?
Well, Egypt has found a way to get along with Israel. In many ways, Egypt is Israel's ambassador to the Middle East. And the Egyptians have functioned as go-betweens, and the Egyptians have tried to explain to other Muslim countries, hey, this is what Israel's going through. We can talk to Israel. Why don't you? It's been a very unique relationship between Egypt and Israel, going back to the Camp David Accords. But of course, it was those Camp David Accords that got Sadat killed. And so, and maybe this modern age of terrorism goes back to that relationship between Israel and Egypt. We saw with the Abraham Accords that the Trump administration was able to make solid progress to build on that sort of secret sauce between Egypt and Israel. Let's bottle that and try to bring it to other countries and explain to other countries that they can have the same relationship that Egypt has. And we saw it with Bahrain. Bahrain was, Bahrain's the baby brother, right, to the Saudis politically and diplomatically. And so after the election, if Trump won in 2020, the expectation was that Saudi Arabia would follow Bahrain. There's no way Bahrain would move without Saudi permission. And so this was the dynamic that was in place, and this is the dynamic that the Biden administration is trying to unwind.
Thank you so much, Neil McCabe. You enlightened us with such intellectual thoughts. Thank you so much for being on the Capital Show, and Happy New Year.
All right, thanks. Good to be with you.
Hey, Maria Malouf here. Please click to like and subscribe to Maria Malouf TV YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.